that we've got our guest Steve Barker from Dyson Farming here, and Debbie Winstanley, who is going to be running the interview. We're all at different places. I'm actually in Salcombe in Devon. Debbie, where are you?
I'm in Tooting tonight.
Okay. And Steve, are you on the farm? Are you at Dyson?
On the farm at our HQ in Nocton, just outside Lincoln.
Brilliant.
In Lincolnshire.
Yeah.
And Eve's in as well. Great. Where's Eve?
Eve, where are you?
Huh?
Where are you? We're just introducing ourselves.
Oh,
where
hello.
are you?
I am in Macclesfield. I'm actually house sitting for Christine at the moment, so we've swapped places.
Sounds good.
Okay, that's brilliant. Right, well, without more ado, Debbie, we'll hand over to Steve, and Eve and I will be ready to pop back in and see if we've got any questions in a bit. Thank you.
Brilliant. Okay. So I think it's wonderful that we have this opportunity to have a chat with Steve. And one of the things I was thinking about was, Steve, how do we know each other?
Well, we've got a long history in potatoes. Potatoes is our connection, Debbie. So I graduated from Newcastle University with a degree in agriculture and agronomy in '99. Joined QV Foods back then as a trainee agronomist. And our paths crossed a little while later after that in probably early mid 2000s, I guess, when I decided that potato agronomy and then subsequently technical manager was my route into fresh produce, and I was technical manager for a Sainsbury's supplying business, and you were at Sainsbury's at the time. So
it was. But I think your story is a really interesting one, because it's a lovely way to describe what has been for you a very exciting and different and unusual perhaps career, because you came from like agronomy into technology and then almost into commercial management. It's a really interesting story. So can you tell us some more about it?
Yeah, sure. So as you say, agronomist, technical manager. Then I worked as a operator.
Hi, Christine. We might be better off doing it on Teams and just recording it. Oh, he's back.
I can still see you all and hear you all, so I don't know what happened there.
Okay. So
Where did we get?
Where did we get to? We got to where you were telling us about being a technical manager at works facing into Sainsbury's, and the rest of your story from there.
Sure. So technical manager, then moved into a general manager role for a potato packing business based in Lincolnshire, which was basically running a site that had 200 employees, engineering, finance, manufacturing, production, etc. And took the opportunity to move across to Jersey in the Channel Islands and spent 2 years over there. Well, people go to Jersey for two reasons, right? It's either offshore banking or potatoes. Sadly, it was potatoes for me. So, but had a great time over there running that business, supplying Jersey Royal potatoes into the UK retail market. and then took the opportunity in 2015 to go and move to the States and ran Albert Bartlett's potato business in the States for nearly 4 years, which was hugely exciting, a great journey for me and my family. And that was my real first foray into any commercial management, as I was dealing with a lot of retailers across all of North America, in fact, not just the United States, but included Canada as well. And took a liking to that, really. I've done that role of agronomy, technical manager, operations, and the next step was to go into commercial management. And 20 or so months ago, I wound up here and joined Dyson Farming in this commercial director role that I do now. Hugely exciting role, lots of breadth to the role. One day you can be looking at property development, next day it's strawberries, next day it's any manner of things. So it's an exciting role for me, and yeah, really pleased to be here.
I think the great thing about you and your journey, though, is because it's come from a technical quality management type place, you're really grounded and rooted in getting it right, and actually then scaling up sort of big picture, as opposed to coming in and just doing numbers. You really get it. And I think that for me is the important bit of your journey.
I think that's helped massively, actually. And it's good, it's good to have that breadth of knowledge. So everything from BRC audits back in the day to fertilizer recommendations and plant protection product recommendations for farmers. It's an understanding, I guess, of the whole growing cycle. And predominantly that's been in potatoes, but of course, that can be extrapolated into other products. It was quite amazing when I first joined Dyson Farming, walking around the glasshouse with our glasshouse manager, Angel, and he said, "Oh, got a bit of an issue here with Phytophthora." I was like, Phytophthora, I remember that from potato blight, right? So, yeah. But very quickly you can start to understand the life cycle of different products by using and leaning on that experience that I've gained in potatoes, actually, which is quite amazing for me to find the parallels. So,
and it's lovely to then pull it all together and do the strategic piece, but be able to sort of see the areas for opportunity and the areas that need a bit of work. And you can see it clearly because of where you've come from, which I think is great.
Sure, I agree, and it's really excited to be in this role now. It's as always in a new role, it takes you a year, particularly in food and farming. I think it takes you a year just to understand the cycles of things. So you look back after a year and you go, okay, this happened last year. These were the decisions we made. Maybe we make them a little bit different. Yeah. Need a year, definitely a year in food to understand that.
But one of the reasons we wanted to talk to you on women in food and farming is partly because of our need for diversity, so that's good, but also because Dyson Farming is different, and we wanted to have you explain a bit about the difference and what it means to you, but also what it means to the farming and in general, because actually one of the things that you're trying to do is lead the industry, and for me that's really important. So do you want to talk about that a bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, and we'll talk about, I've got a short presentation that I'll share in a few moments, and we'll touch on our journey in that presentation. And our journey is quite an interesting one as a business, right? So we're a very young farming business, but we've got some very, very big plans to move into a different sphere and get closer to the consumer. And with that comes, farming traditionally, of course, has been viewed as a very there's certain roles in farming that appeal to certain individuals, but our farming business is so diverse in terms of the roles you can undertake. So whether it's in property, whether it's in research, whether it's in finance, whether it's in HR, whether it's purely in arable farming or livestock management, there's such a range of roles, and increasingly so. Technology is obviously playing a huge part in our business. We've got an individual in our business now who is just solely looking at different technology that's coming into ag and how we can utilize that on the farm. So we recognise that for our growth plans to actually come to fruition, we need the right people around us. We need good young people to come into our business, bright young people to come into our business, and we're really targeting working with Leaf actually. With their education program to looking at the research that Leaf have done recently on with teenagers on the perception of food production, agriculture, and we've just put together a program where we're bringing teenagers into our business for a week across, so they can get a full range of experience across the business and understand what we do better, and understand it can be a very rewarding career path. I mean, there's lots of us in food and farming that have had a very rewarding career path and very enjoyable career so far. So yeah, we want to share that and want to get out there. And in fact, we've got a Lincolnshire show coming up in a couple of weeks, and our real focus there is about, okay, we've been going to the Lincolnshire show for many years, but we've not really shared what we do. We've not really shared all the roles that we have in our business. So it's a real recruitment focus and sharing the breadth of roles that we have in the business at that show. And we look to expand that in the coming
and
year.
You've got Open Farm Sunday sold out.
Amazing, yeah. So last year it was a bit last minute, right? We were coming out of COVID. We didn't really know if we could do it, and then we did it, and I think we had 120 people or so through the doors. You know, at the time we thought this is wonderful, and we put a bit of an arbitrary cap on it this year of 500 people for management purposes. And we're having to turn people away sadly at the moment because we thought, well, we've hit our cap, and that's coming this Sunday. So we're really excited about that. Welcoming people onto the farm, and it's a bit of walking, a bit of usual tractor and trailer tours, and just sharing what we do. So sharing our great environment we're working.
Yeah. Do you want to roll your presentation and video?
Sure. Yeah. Hopefully it won't be death by PowerPoint. It's only a few slides. So really just opening with the key information about Dyson farming. So we farm a significant land area, so broadly 35,000 acres, 14,000 hectares, the majority of which is in Lincolnshire. So I'm sat today at the northernmost point on that map, just outside Lincoln. Where in Lincolnshire we're 28,000 acres, and then the balance approximately 4 in Oxfordshire, and the balance in the southwest. The southwest farms are kind of north and south of Bath, if you like. So the farm, it won't surprise you to learn the crops that we grow on the farm. There is a significant quantity of cereals. Peas, potatoes and onions are the kind of first step into some higher value cropping. And more recently, strawberries has been a new venture where we've built a 15-acre, 6-hectare glass house at Carrington, just north of Boston. Maize and rye form the backbone of our energy production, so supplying our 2 AD plants, which I'll touch on a bit more detail in a moment. And then, of course, just generally, because of the size of the land area we farm, there's always going to be some permanent grass and permanent pasture, and livestock is there to manage that, but also more widely in the arable rotation to form part of our regenerative approach. So regen ag is something that we've been doing for many years, I guess, but actually it's become quite the buzz term in agriculture, and we graze cover crops, etc., to naturally fertilise the soil. And as it says on the slide there, the regenerative approach to farming in Dyson farming follows those 5 key principles. We obviously measure on food, but there's 5 areas that we focus on in the business. Food, as I mentioned, is significant to us. So we farm a significant area. We've got some significant operational challenges across those areas. If you think about down in the southwest, the farm is dissected by the city of Bath, and just physically getting from one side to the other takes a lot of time. So we feel a little blessed when we sat in Lincolnshire. We've got wide open fields and some great transport links without too many cities in between. But food is the bedrock of what we do, and it will remain so. And food security in the UK is our primary output, if you like, and the expansion into strawberries in particular is an example of that. Energy, so we have 2 AD plants, one here at Nocton and one down at Carrington. Enough power to power 10,500 homes. We use the heat from the AD plants, the AD plant at Carrington, to help us grow strawberries. So we pump that into our glass house. And it allows us to grow strawberries at a time of year when perhaps there are usually a significant amount of imports on the shelf. So back to that food security and growing crops that can be grown in Britain using renewable energy, really quite important to us. We're really proud of our environmental credentials. 13 hectares of environmental stewardship features on the farm. We have a dedicated team managing that because of the scale and size, but we're very proud of it. And part of what we want to share this weekend, actually, Open Farm Sunday, is all the things that we're doing on field margins, through fields, in fact, with beetle banks and wildlife corridors, planting species that help the pollinators that we're so dependent on, but also help planting species that fill that hunger gap in the winter for the wild birds. So we're really proud of what we do there. Quite uniquely, I think, in British agriculture and farming, we've got a dedicated research arm. Not surprising, I guess, when you obviously think about who own the farm and farming business. It's natural for us, and we are inquisitive by nature, and we want to understand things better, and we've put some investment into that. We provide a subscription service for farmers as far north as Inverness and as far south as Hampshire, and that's been the backbone of our research business. But more recently, we've expanded that to create a better and more prominent link with Dyson technology, so that we can use the engineering know-how in Dyson to solve some of the real world challenges we have in farming, in this farming business that we operate. And as part of diversification, property, last but not least, it's a significant property portfolio. And as you can imagine, with the land acquisitions over the last 11 years, there's been some significant consolidation, shall we say. So we tended to consolidate certain farmyards to operate out of one specific farmyard, and some yards have not been suitable for modern agriculture. So we're quite proud of the way we've sympathetically renovated some of those barns for residential properties, for commercial lets, and that property portfolio totals approximately 300 properties. Our timeline I won't dwell on, but really the important thing here really is about how we've moved from 11 years ago, not really having an identity. We were known as Beeswax, and then Beeswax Dyson Farming, and now Dyson Farming. But really that timeline is about the investment. So it's well publicised fact, and actually Sir James mentions it in his book. We've not only the family have not only spent a lot of money acquiring the land base, but also invested significantly in infrastructure. So £120 million has been spent on infrastructure. So that's been an AD plan, it's been grain stores, it's been potato stores, it's been the glass house at Carrington. So really setting ourselves up for future growth and future efficiency across the business. And kind of the next bit I want to talk about is our next phase, our future 10 years. And I've got a little short video to play on the next slide, actually. If we can go to the next slide. So rather than me reading this, I'll let Sir James say it in his own words. If we could play the video.
In Britain, we should be growing our own food. We shouldn't be importing it. So to be growing our own food is, to me, terribly important. We shouldn't give up on it. So we want to be a very, very efficient farmer. We want to do the right sort of farming. We want to be sustainable, and we want people to want to buy our produce because it has a good provenance. Dyson's a private company. We're in it for the long term. We do the research and development. We put huge amounts of money into it, and it has a long-term payback. We want to be very, very permanent and grow and get better and better at what we do. And so it is with the farms. It's a wonderful thing to do, and it will go on for generation after generation. We take a very, very long-term view here. The future of farming will be all about research, science, developing new ways of doing things, developing new machines. When we started getting the basics right. But when you get into something like this, just as you do with manufacturing, if you have bright young people working for you who are thinking intelligently and willing to experiment and take risks, you can improve dramatically all the time. We're one of the largest producers of peas in England, and we're very large producers of potatoes, and we're about to be very large producers of strawberries over there. So we'll be growing strawberries in November and March. And we can do that because we've got this wonderful power source right next door, the anaerobic digester and the power generators. We make the electricity from sustainable resources. Here we are, this maize, that's what powers that anaerobic digester to make the electricity that our products use. So it's sustainable. We're going to use technology here, robotics technology, vision technology, interpretation of pictures, all the kind of automation things that we're developing at Dyson that can work on a farm. Some of the things we want from the farm are interesting because I think we can use farm produce in our products. I'm not going to tell you how we're going to do that, we already see how we can do that, and that would be interesting as well. When you start, you may be a fairly ordinary farmer, but hopefully over the years, because of our sense of adventure, because of the intelligence and bright people we're employing, we can get better and better at it. And I hope that in sort of 10 years' time, and look back on the last 10 years, because we've owned the farms for almost 10 years now, it'll be light years different.
Wow. Wow, mind-blowing.
Yeah, he says it much better than I can, but I think the really important bit is at the end there when it says, when we look back on the next 10 years, it'll be light years different. And that's the challenge for us as a business, okay? So, as I mentioned on the timeline, where the business has been set up we've invested in the right things, we've got the right people around us to start our growth, we've got the right infrastructure, we've got energy production, we've got good efficient potato stores, we've got grain stores that are new and safe, and got quite a lot of issues around historically with old grain stores and working environments for the staff, where our grain stores are designed to be safe for the staff. So we've put that investment in. So it's about what happens next. Okay, so the next 10 years, into James's words, will be light years different. So what are we trying to build? Well, we're trying to develop a brand within farming, if you like, and that's not to say it's all about food and a consumer-facing brand, but what we stand for as Dyson Farming. So we're innovative, we're technology-driven, as you'd expect from a Dyson business. We've been measuring our carbon output for the last 5 years, and we know that we're carbon neutral. We sequester more carbon. We use the Cool Farm tool. We sequester more carbon than we emit. Our two biggest emission sources are unsurprisingly fuel and fertilizer, but with the use of the digestate, liquid and solid from our AD plants, we're looking to reduce our reliance on manufactured fertilizer. We've got some quite exciting projects we're working on there. We're research focused, so as I mentioned, we've got Dyson Farming Research, and it's a team of 7 totally focused on how we can do things better in the future. And the investment in British food is significant for us. The glasshouse, 6 hectares at Carrington, was completed in March 21. We were supplying our first ever strawberries in March 21. Never been a strawberry grower in the past, but of course we put the right skills in place to grow strawberries and the right people in place. But we just broke ground in the last 2 weeks to expand that further, another 4.5 hectares. So we'll be a 10.5 hectare site, which is, my math serves me correctly, about 26 acres from the spring of 24. So that's been really, really, really significant growth for us. And ultimately, if you see our strawberries on the shelf, you'll see in Marks & Spencer's, you will see a Marks & Spencer's logo and a Dyson Farming logo alongside each other. So we have this co-branding position with Marks & Spencer, which we're really quite proud of. And we're proud of the fact that people go back and look for our strawberries because they are so good. So. Yeah. But that's not. We don't just want to leave that at strawberries. We want to look at other products. So, as Sir James said in the video, there we've been a significant grower of peas over the years. We're a significant grower of potatoes. Of course, we're a significant grower of cereals, wheat, barley. We're also a significant grower of oilseed. So, how can we get closer to the consumer and use our engineering know-how within Dyson technology to do something different, to produce a product in a different way, a more efficient way, a better tasting way, a healthier way? That's the journey we're on, and we've got some quite ambitious growth targets to develop. But what ultimately we want to be, I guess, is in the slide here really visually says it really well, and that it's undeniable that Dyson entering the vacuum cleaner market, the hair care market, or the fans or hand dryer market has resulted in a much better product for the consumer. And if you think about the vacuum cleaner, the best-selling vacuum cleaner was in the market was their machine that you plug into the wall. Now you can't buy a corded vacuum cleaner from Dyson; it's a cordless one. So they've actually gone, even though we've got the best-selling products in the market, we're going to engineer something even better. So the parallels with farming are, how can we have that position in agriculture? How can agriculture in general be better for Dyson entering the market, and Dyson Farming being a player in farming? So that's our challenge, and that's what excites me every day I come to work, thinking about that challenge.
I think that's amazing, but I also like the fact that you're open to leading. You're not just wanting to do it on your own. You want to sort of make a statement and take others with you, which I think is powerful and engaging, and actually has almost a longer life than just wanting to do something better. And
I agree, Debbie. I think that agriculture, we need to collaborate. Absolutely, we need to share ideas more. We need to collaborate. We're in a very unique position because we have a lot of people that are in that Dyson Farming research team who are doing all this research all the time. We want to share that, right? We're very blessed that we have enough people. We've got people in our environment team. We've done all this work on environmental schemes and what works, what doesn't work for us. We want to share that. It's not particularly IP that we want to keep to ourselves. It's something that the whole of agriculture should be able to benefit from. Because ultimately we're doing that for the benefit of the environment, which
that's quite unusual, and I think that's a lovely way to go forwards, because that certainly isn't the way some people have behaved in the past. So I think this whole thing about wanting to lead is very interesting, very dynamic, and very engaging. And that was one of the reasons I thought it would be great to have this chat today, because of, if you like, the line in the sand that you're putting there that will take us all to a better place. And I wake up every morning and I am chuffed about Dyson, because my hairdryer is a different ballgame.
Yeah, well, that's the parallel, isn't it? That's the thing. How can we be that group of people in ag, and how can we help drive things forward? And we're in a unique situation at the moment, aren't we? We've sadly seen the war in Ukraine has affected food prices because of inflation, etc., and cost of fuel, and it's been a pretty tough time, right? I think the last 3-4 years, if you include COVID in that, and we're all going through a period where we're thinking, this is strange. We don't really know what's around the corner. But actually, it brings opportunity, right? So it brings opportunity to UK agriculture, I think, to really think about long-term food security. We know that and it won't go away, of course. There are a significant amount of imported food coming into the UK, and for in many cases, the right reasons, because of seasonality. But there are things like, an example of strawberries, where we can grow high quality British strawberries. We know we can do it right through to Christmas. Our last delivery into UK retail, into Marks and Spencer's this year, was the 23rd of December. Wow. It's quite high quality produce going into that period. That's exciting to me, pushing those boundaries. How do we get something better and use our know-how and skills and bring some technology into it to make it even better and more consistent?
This resonates very much with the Princess Royal's comments in the City Food Lecture, at the end of the City Food Lecture, where she was sort of having a bit of a tip at sort of, if you like, government policies and sort of environmental schemes. And she was making the point that not growing food in this country in farming is not an option. And what you're saying very much resonates with her thinking. And she was being a bit provocative, but she was also being right, because at the end of the day, we have got to grow food. We've got to grow the right food in the right place and get better at it, because it's all part of this resilience thing. And resilience is almost the scary bit of where at times we kind of, like in the past, at times have lost the plot. Christine, it's nice to see you back in. Have you got any thoughts and questions for Steve after his amazing presentation?
Oh, yes. Thank you so much, Steve. I actually wanted to ask you the question about leadership and the funding. And, you said you've got 7 people doing research in this area. And at some point, someone's going to say, why are we doing all of this work and then sharing it with the rest of the farming community? And suppose I was thinking, do you see, it makes sense at the moment, and I'm not surprised that you're doing it, but think about a business plan over the next 10 years saying we're going to do all this work and we're going to share it with the whole farming community. Do you see that as something where you might be able to get grant funding using, this is what we've done in the past and this is what we will do again? And I suppose I'm asking the same question, do you actually think you've got competitors within the farming industry? And if they're not your competitors, when you brought out your brands, you try and keep one step ahead of everybody else, knowing that they're going to copy you, whether it, and your other disciplines in the business. So, you know, how do you think that will pan out in your, you know, looking back in 10 years' time, what you did over that 10 years?
Yeah, I think there's a number of questions there, isn't there? So I'll start with the first one on the Dyson Farm Research piece. So the model historically on Dyson Farm Research has been a subscriber model. Okay, so we've got 150 broadly subscribers, farmers that subscribe to that model. We do trials for the usual suspects. So whether it's an ag chem manufacturer or a fertilizer manufacturer. So we've got the skills to do it, and we've got the land base to do it, and the different varying soil types to do it. And we obviously it's a commercial piece, right? We with the permission of those manufacturers, will share that data, but we'll also put some of our slant on it as well to say this is what we found in our farming environment. This is what we found. So that model, whilst we're sharing it, it isn't free. It's a subscriber-based model. It's not a lot of money, right? I mean, broadly, if you can make a good decision out of it, it will pay back quite quickly. So we've got a subscriber-based model there. There are things like the environmental work that we've done where we've offered it out as an add-on to our existing subscribers. Because we found, touching on the environmental piece for a moment, we were being asked to go and present and go and talk to people about what have you learned at Dyson Farming? Okay, well, we've learned a lot, but it costs us to do this. We're not looking to make a load of money out of this by any stretch of imagination, but those 7 people quite clearly have a cost to this business, and our priority is covering that cost. And then moving forwards is how they can add value to build this Dyson Farming journey, this 10-year journey we're on. Whether that's it will be in strawberries, of course, because we've started it and we're very committed to that. But it could be in 3 or 4 other products in the very near future as well. So it's how Dyson Farming can help us. Dyson Farming Research can help us do that work and add value to that brand. So the primary aim is obviously to cover the cost of the people and then work out how we can do it. In terms of competitors, we're quite unique in that we're trying to get into a space where historically, particularly in produce, you've had a farmer and a processor or a packer, and they've been 2 very different businesses. We're trying to be more vertically integrated than that is our model. We're trying to get closer to the consumer, and that will mean some investment in some further process. I'm sure what that looks like in what products we're still working through those business plans now. But quite clear in strawberries, it's fairly straightforward, right? It's a fresh product, it's a berry, it's picked. You've got to pack it pretty quickly because it's such a short shelf life. So it absolutely makes sense you would pack that yourself rather than sending it off to somebody else to pack, just because of the timings. But I think we're a little unique. Is there any direct competitors to us? Yeah, I don't really think so at this moment in time. Will people want to catch up and watch what we're doing? Of course they will. That's natural. In the same way that you can buy a Shark vacuum cleaner now that looks completely different to the old Hoover bagged vacuum cleaners years ago, right? So people learn from their competitors and have to keep up, I guess.
Thank you. I think Eve is still on the call. Eve, do come in if you've got any questions. But I also wanted to, great to hear about your work with teenagers, because it is getting messages into schools. And I know a lot of the farming community do things as individuals, but it really is hard. And I think a big name like yours is fantastic. I'm so glad that you're doing that. But I also want to understand about as we have women in food and farming, women in your business, what you're doing to promote them. Have you got any senior women in the business?
Not as many as we would like, I think, is the simple answer, and hence why we as Dyson Farming want to be a supporter of women in food and farming. It's one strand of that recruitment drive, I guess. It's saying, look, we recognise and it's common for all agriculture, right? It's still quite male dominated. We have some great women in our team, with breadth of roles from agronomists through to in my team, in the sales team, through the more traditional roles that you'd expect. But even we have women on the farm doing some of the operational roles as well. And so there's absolutely no boundaries in our business based on gender at all, as you'd rightly expect. But we want to encourage more women into our business. We recognise it's an area that we need to increase the numbers. And yeah, there's some great individuals in our business, and one of the things that we're pushing actually is to follow this forum for women in food and farming, jump on these types of calls, learn from other people's experience, and we want to really be part of it and support it as a business.
What do you think of the barriers for women joining your business?
From my perspective, I don't necessarily think there are a huge amount of barriers. I think that it's knowledge of the roles, knowledge of the breadth of roles, knowledge of that you can come into farming and food production, and an engineering degree would actually be beneficial, and a understanding of technology would be hugely beneficial. There's this great opportunity out there for people to really make their mark, and I think that we've got to. I think thinking about over 20 years ago when I was at Newcastle, it was a male-dominated course, and I think if you look at the statistics coming out of universities now, it's great to see more women taking more land-based courses, which is fantastic. But I think our primary goal is to really share all the roles and the breadth of roles we have in the business. I think that's the crucial thing to start with, and try and encourage more people to come and visit.
Great. Look forward to watching you and enjoying your progress, which I can imagine will be rapid and different and positive over the next 10 years. With you around, it will.
I was just going to ask Eve, as somebody new at the beginning of her career in the industry, what's your first thoughts on that, on what everything Steve just said?
Yeah, I think I was very lucky because, for those that don't know, Christina is my mother. So therefore, having a female in agriculture helped to know that there was opportunities in agriculture. I studied politics at university, so nothing to do with agriculture, and I'm specifically in technology, again, like completely new industry for me. And I guess, the reason I got into it was because I went into a technology business and they had an agricultural section of the business. But yeah, I think it is very difficult being, from my perspective anyway, being a young, very ambitious female within quite a male-dominated environment, both in agriculture and in technology. I use it as a platform. I say, I want to be mentored, and I'll use it. But I think it can be quite daunting. And if I didn't have the role models that I do have, I would shy away from that challenge. So I just think it's to do with promoting opportunities. I think women in food and farming is a great opportunity to network and understand where all the different opportunities within agriculture as well. It's not just that you have to sit on a tractor. I'm behind my desk all the time. So yeah, I think it's publicizing the opportunities within agriculture really. And Dyson, I think, is a great platform for that because of the breadth of the brand that you have.
I think it's interesting, Eve, isn't it? That I mean, from our perspective, there's great schemes like MDS, right? We're not part of MDS, but it's a scheme that I'm aware of, and I think it's a fantastic scheme. It gives people 6 months in certain roles and move to another role. We've got our plan really. Our kind of plan around recruitment is about working with Leaf on this teenage research work they've been doing. Locally, we're into primary schools, which we do kind of independently, but it's not, recognise we're only scratching the surface. And I think the collaboration piece is quite important, which is hence why we've decided we want to really support Leaf, because we can't do it all on our own, right? So we've got to really get the message out there. And Leaf, with the great work that the late Caroline Drummond did, with the recognition now of the Leaf brand and the different, many retailers now, the majority of retailers carrying the Leaf mark is fantastic. So it's going to become a more recognised brand. So to move into the education sphere and share the opportunities, I think that's really significant, and that could be a real game changer, I think, in the coming years. Yeah,
and Eve, to your point, it is hard at times not to be intimidated because you are one on your own in a space, or you can get I'm not so much bullied, but maybe put down a bit by some of the males around you. But it is important, particularly that people like you who are trailblazers stand your ground and use people around you to make progress, because actually we'll all benefit from it. And there's nothing for me better than teams with people of different culture, backgrounds, experience, because that's where you really make progress, because you chuck ideas around in those teams and you get much more than you started with. And that very much resonates with what you're doing at Dyson, isn't it? You're putting together very bright, intelligent people that will come out with more.
The test often is when you go into a meeting. If you go into a meeting, you all agree. So I've got this point to discuss. You all agree. It's a failure, right? You need more diverse views to say. So we all agree, and it means you're all thinking the same, right? So we need more diverse views in our business to say, actually, I don't agree with that. That's completely wrong, and then have a debate about it and say, okay, I may have the wrong perspective here. And it's about getting multiple perspectives, because we all agree on something. You're pretty certain by the time you got so far down the path, something will go wrong, and you go back and think, oh, if only we'd have thought of that. We need a diverse mindset, and that only comes with a diverse employee base, right? So. An openness to challenge. That's the other point, isn't it? We need to be open as leaders in our business, that anyone can come and say, actually, I don't agree with what you're doing. I think there's a better way to do it this way. And we actively encourage that actually in the business.
Brilliant. It's been an absolute joy and a revelation listening to you, and we are very grateful for you getting involved with us, and also for giving up your time. And also for putting up with our technology, which we're all learning about. So I want to say a big, big thank you to Steve and the team at Dyson for sharing with us tonight. And I hope we have a very successful Open Farm Sunday. I'll be at Allerton. I'm very sorry, otherwise I'd love to be with you. And a very successful Lincolnshire show. And I look forward to catching up with you later in the year.
Thank you. It's been a real pleasure talking to you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.